You see that bird? Came to bless this video. We're in my sacred hut in the back of the property, and I felt like telling you the story of how angry I was with my husband the night he died. So angry. 22 years ago, my husband went off on a nighttime training mission in his helicopter and just never came home. I went to bed married and woke up a widow. And I was angry about that too, but I was so mad at him the night he died. And that's been confusing in my grieving process. We were supposed to meet for dinner at a place called Memphis Barbecue in Las Vegas, Nevada, just outside the gate there at Nellis. At the time, we lived about 40 minutes away, 40 minutes south, and in the military, you do your flight plan, the crew does, and then you might have a break, and then you step to the plane. So then they fly. There's a small gap of time in between, and that's when we were meant to have dinner together. But the window was small, and the drive was long, and there was just a real shitty miscommunication. And he called me when he got to the restaurant, and he only had about half an hour to be there, and I was still at the house waiting for the call. And I was angry. I was so mad that there wasn't better planning, or he didn't call to let me know, that he ate alone, that my husband Greg ate alone on the night that he died. It has been a painful memory, and I never got to see my husband again. They recovered bits of his body, but I didn't identify him that way. They identified him in other ways, and I read the autopsy report instead, 8 pages. And even though I am a registered nurse and have been in the medical world for a long time, reading an autopsy report is not easy, and it's certainly not easy to read about somebody that you love and have lost. And although it was gruesome, one of the very odd details of this autopsy report is that my beloved had undigested beans in his stomach. Yeah, to have that knowledge and to have that awareness, to have that memory, undigested beans in his stomach from this barbecue place that we were supposed to be at together. And so, of course, my anger shifted in the morning to the stunning news of his death. And while that happened 22 years ago, it's this idea of his last meal and me not being there that has created tension in my system, created something that needed attention that I didn't know about. I didn't really know what to do about it until a couple of weeks ago. Now, in the military, there are generally an incredible network of support and people around all the time. And when my husband, Greg, died, there were a lot of women who stepped forward to bring comfort and solace and support and food. And this group of women, who we now call ourselves the Paya, have been traveling the United States for the last 20 years to a different state every year. And the group was born out of this tragedy, but that's not what we're about now. And so every year on the same weekend in October, we pick a different state out of a hat randomly and go. This year it was Arizona. We were in Sedona a couple of weeks ago, and I drove from Mount Shasta to Arizona, and on the way I picked up one of my friends, Dana, who still lives in Las Vegas. And so I arrived to town a little early, around dinner time, and something in me as I approached the Las Vegas area where my husband died, just outside of Vegas, on his training mission with 11 other men, I had this impulse of like, well, I'm kind of hungry and I never made it to that dinner. I wonder if that barbecue place is still around. And my car and my memory, though Vegas has changed so much, took me straight there, straight to that restaurant. And I got out of the car and I sat down. There were only 4 other people in the place, and I ordered some food, and I ordered those beans. And I invoked the spirit of my husband, my late husband, and sat him across from me and just imagined his smile and imagined what our last meal could have looked like, could have felt like, could have been like, with as much open-heartedness as I could muster. And I reimagined that, and I had a last meal with Greg that night, 22 years later. My eyes filled up with tears, and I felt like something magical was happening. And yes, it was my imagination, and yes, it was my heart energy, and yes, the spirit of my dead husband seemed to have arrived on cue to presence me and my heart and my grief and my sadness and my regret, to calm the anger that had been stewing there. These birds love being a part of these messages, so I just wanted to acknowledge them. I'm sharing this story because you can reimagine anything that you want. And it was divine guidance for me to go to that restaurant and have beans and have tears and have a meal where I could soothe myself and calm myself and reimagine these memories, what's his name? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino did this with this movie with Brad Pitt, and reimagine the murders of Sharon Tate and the other people that died that night and her unborn child. In the movie, he does it in a pretty graphic and gruesome way, but the reimagining is the point. It seems like we have many, many opportunities to change the past with the power of the present moment and our intentions and our heart space and our imaginations. And I want to encourage you, anyone who's connected to this message, to experiment with shifting the past through the power of the now, the power of how you would have wanted it to go, with any memory, with any relationship, with anything that has a thread of constriction in your system, to free yourself from that, and to revisit a place, or revisit a person, or revisit a memory with your full presence, and to give yourself to the moment and to be surprised and to be true. Bird on the fence. To be true, to be open to healing, to be open to the healing that you deserve, that is available for you. The name of the place has changed. I got a t-shirt. It's now called Smoking Pig Barbecue. Smoking Pig Barbecue, but I'm wearing this shirt to honor that experience, to honor the intuition, to honor the impulse to go and to recreate the meal that I missed, that has given me such stickiness in my grief process. And I'm grateful that I had the intuition and the guidance to go and sit down and order those beans, and to honor my late husband, to honor our relationship, and to do that grief work. Loss and grief and death and redemption and healing are a path that are for you to figure out. And it's very unique for each individual that's going through it. This is encouragement to be open to guidance, to be open to connection, to be open to changing, to be open to the possibility of healing and feeling better about the process, about yourself, about your lost loved one. Lost isn't the right word. They're not lost. Nothing's ever truly lost. So, a shout out to the men and the women of the 66th Rescue Squadron there at Nellis Air Force Base. I noticed they didn't have a patch from the squadron, so maybe if somebody connects with this message, they might go across the highway and donate one to honor the 12 men who died that night on September 3rd, 1998. Here's to the magic, here's to the heart, the power of the heart and the wisdom of the heart, to the mission of service, to being connected and feeling connected. I'm sending so much love and compassion and care from the mountain for wherever you're at on your journey. Know that you're not alone in it. Know that the unseen realm is here to champion you, especially in your time of darkness and the shakiness and the fear and the wobble.